In my previous video, I did a progression guide on Ultimate Custom Night on how to reach this point, slowly adding more and more characters, getting more difficult, learning them as you go, and finally reaching the 50-20 point. But in this video, I wanted to focus on all the characters together and what they do, and specifically 50-20. Now, I don't know everything, I don't know all the timings and all the different details and systems perfectly, but I do know quite a lot from all the times I've played and all the failed attempts and the 2 winning attempts, because this is my second victory, which I'll be showing in this video. But from what I've learned, I hope I can help someone learn something new or understand better what they're doing or what someone in specific does in 50-20. Now, before I start this video, I did make a diagram that sorts out characters into different categories, whether they give you a Faz-coin or not, whether they are an active threat or just a distraction, and a lot of other stuff too. So let's just go straight into this. But before we start, I would recommend doing 8,000 points, if you've not already done that, to get the 4th office, which is probably the best, especially your first time, and also turn off visual effects, which really helps with characters like Funtime Chica, who can kind of make your game lag a bit and add that weird wobbly effect, which makes it hard to click on stuff, and it just makes it a lot easier. Also, in this dark period, we want to be holding the 1 key, which is the power generator, whatever it is on controller or any other kind of device like mobile, and also space, which is the fan. So we want to turn the fan off because it will already be on, and turn the power generator on. Sometimes this will mess up if you do the keys at the wrong time, or you just don't hold them for long enough, but it should always be consistent. If you're holding them down, fan should be off, power generator should be on as soon as you enter the night in this dark period before it starts. And as soon as the fan is turned off and the power generator is on, you want to put your hand back to the position where you're around the door buttons, which is A, W, D, and F, and also the camera, which is S. Now, immediately, as you can see quite a few different things. Most of the stuff here is just room decorations, but you can see on the right we have a character, 2 characters actually. We have a figurine on the desk, and there's also the wet floor sign. We will only be focusing on the wet floor sign at the start, and everything we'll get to it later when it's actually a problem. So, Rockstar Chica is the first character we want to worry about, because at the start we're going to be going on the cameras and getting coins and doing a lot of stuff, and we want to put it on the right because we will be closing the left door, so then it's blocking her off on the left and the web floor sign will be on the right. So she's blocked off on both sides. So how she works is you're supposed to check on the camera, see which side she's on, and place it on that side to block her off. But you can also camera stall or door block, so we're just going to put it on the right because it will all be explained later, but we're going to put that on the right, which will be blocking her on the right the whole time she's there, and on the left we'll be blocking her with the door. Now, a lot of the stuff I will mention in this video or explain, I did explain in the previous video, so I will be going over a lot of stuff again, but I will be re-explaining it for anyone who didn't watch the progression guide and is just here for 50-20. Now, immediately you can use the keybind S for the cameras, so you should have already learnt all the keybinds, you should already know that by now. Go to the duck system immediately. You want to get quicker and quicker as you go along, better and better. Duck system, place the audio lure somewhere on the left, so that will stop Pigpatch, Happy Frog, and Mr. Hippo. They will just get fooled by it because they'll try to go to the open duck system, but they'll get stopped by the audio lure. And the other 2, which is Nedd and Orville, we will get to them later, but they are kind of also fooled a little bit, so it does help there. But mainly those 3, they are now handled. Now, you don't have to place it exactly on the left, but you do want it close enough to the left that it's covering the left bar, that it's there so they can't get past it, they will get caught in it. Now, you want to immediately go to the cameras and go to camera 8. Here is Toy Freddy, which is one of the most annoying characters because he's very luck based, because he'll be constantly trying to kill you, but we are just going to block him off once and leave it up to luck basically. So we're going to go to his camera, check where he is, you can just check 2 of the cameras and then deduct that it's on the 3rd one and you just block the 3rd door, or you can just, you know, it might be on the 1st camera you're already looking at, and the 2nd camera, you block him off with the little green buttons. And Toy Freddy, we're just going to leave him. Even though he's still a threat and you'll probably die to him a lot of times, we are just going to leave him now. And you don't actually even have to do this, you don't have to do the wet floor sign either, but we are doing this stuff to ensure that we have the most luck we can and the most chance of survival. So block him off and we are going to forget about him. So pretty much he's handled. Go to camera 7 and then go to the duck system. Now this is something that not a lot of people do. A lot of people just stay on camera 8 or just don't go to the duck system, but these 2 things could be helpful, especially for the first time. Going to the prize corner camera will be helpful in the fact that as soon as you go on the cameras, you're ready to buy the coin, which I'll explain later, and then you go to the duck system for Phantom Mangle because you need to switch systems for her. But if you're already on another system and you just switch back to the cameras, then you're fine. She'll be gone. Now, as soon as I put the cameras down, you'll notice that there's a lot of stuff going on immediately. You heard a laugh, you see a lot of characters, a new character spawning. But basically the first thing we always want to focus on when we go out of the cameras is putting on the mask for Golden Freddy, because if he's there, you'll just instantly get rid of him and then you can take them off whenever you're ready. But the mask does you can just keep it on until you're about to go back on the cameras, because it does help you see the phone call, and you know, it is just more safe to have the mask on. But just take it off as quick as you can and then we'll focus on the other threats. So that's Golden Freddy done. That every time you go off the cameras, just put the mask on, make sure. Now as you can see, Nightmarionne, who is actually a threat the entire night and one of the biggest problems and most annoying characters in the whole game. They are very infamous because they just are very easy to die to, but they can spawn like here, up here, and very quickly change or stay in one spot for a long time. Just very frustrating and makes everything a lot harder to deal with. So when they spawn, just try and keep your mouse off them, specifically over here in the left corner or left side where they won't be spawning, and that should just keep you safe. But obviously sometimes you need to move left and right, you need to click on things like Helpy, which you can't really see there, but up here I've already clicked on him and he will give me a Faz-coin, which is important to know that some characters do give you Faz-coins, which I'll be explaining in a second. But Helpy, just click on him, because even though he will not kill us, he will be a problem for noise, which is a problem for Music Man, and will make him aggravated. So we do not want him to go off, even though he's just a distraction. But obviously Nightmarionne is right here, which is kind of blocking us, but you can just be quick and click, but just try to keep off them as long as you can and make them despawn by just keeping your mouse on the left side or just away from where they are. Now something that you can't see because I won't be looking over there is that BB and JJ off in the right vent in the corner, they will be spawning. Every time you put down the camera, they have a pretty high chance of spawning. Sometimes you can get very unlucky, like none of the characters can spawn, whether that's good or bad if the characters spawn or not. But sometimes they won't spawn, but most of the time they will. You just want to close the right vent, which is the F key, and block them off. And once you hear the thud, you can open it. So just close it for about a second point something, and then you'll hear the thud, they'll go away, which gives you a Faz-coin, which is very important that we want to get Faz-coins for the characters, which is why we're at the prize corner to buy something, and we don't want to get Faz-coins from the camera. You probably know all of this, but just important that you are closing the right vent. You're not looking over to check if they are there to close off. You just close it every time you come out of the cameras. Now some people, especially if you're playing on console, stay on the right side of the screen to constantly use the flashlight, which I'll explain in a second, and check if they are there, and to keep off Nightmarionne, which is usually here, right? But on PC specifically, you should be on the left side and just guessing, and make sure you close it even if they're not there for at least a second and something, because sometimes you will miss them and they'll get in when you flip up the camera, and that can be a big problem. Now it doesn't mean it's over, but usually it does mean you just have to restart. So currently we have Nightmarionne, who I've already talked about, and then Helpy, which I've just clicked on, which is one of the characters, one of the two main ones that give you a coin, and we don't want him to attack us because that will add a lot of noise. It shouldn't be a big problem, but we just still don't want it to happen anytime during the night. Now, as you can see, I did just close the doors. If I just go back here, as you could hear, there was a laugh, and as you can see in this left door, there is eyes. So closing that off will not only get rid of a threat who will kill us if we lift up the cameras without blocking them off, but it will also give us a coin. So these two, Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear, I think, sorry, this is Nightmare Fredbear, that's Nightmare over there, they will give us coins if we block them off, but they don't spawn like Helpy and BB and JJ, who just spawn, you know, every time you lift up the cameras. It's only every 5 seconds that you're on the cameras that they'll even have a chance of spawning, and still then they're not that common to spawn, but they are helpful, even though they can be dangerous if you don't hear them or you just don't close the door. They can be helpful to get coins quicker. And also, something I forgot to mention, if you see any coins on the camera, specifically Toy Freddy's camera, just quickly put your mouse over them, grab them. We just want to get coins quick as possible, which I'll show you in a second how that is done. But we just want to block him off, and you should be able to tell after doing it for a while which laugh correlates to which door and, you know, which side it's on. So that should be something that, you know, helps you can understand who you're blocking off without checking. But sometimes it is good to just check the right side in case you're unsure if both of them spawned or not, or maybe just Nightmare spawned. So you just want to check if you're unsure, but most of the time you just want to know, or, you know, kind of guess. And you do not want to close both doors at the same time, because that only gives you one coin. You want to close them separately. As you can see, I flipped up and down the camera and Helpy is there again, and I'm going to close the right vent for BB and JJ. So this is the main method we'll be using to get to 10 coins, which will be helpful, or not helpful, necessary for the character Funtime Foxy, who is one of the biggest problems, and he makes 50-20, 50-20 in terms of the difficulty, right, and what you need to do. Very important. So you've been, you know, learning all these characters step by step from the progression guide, or just by your own progression, and you'll know that Funtime Foxy is usually the last character or second last character that you put in there, because he is a lot harder than everyone else. Adds kind of a new mechanic, a new thing to worry about. So flip up and down the camera. Okay, no one has really spawned yet, so we don't need to be closing off any doors unless Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear are there, and also BB and JJ who are in the vent. But we just want to quickly flip up and down, pop Helpy if he is there. But if Nightmarionne is, you know, almost fully spawned, don't try and get Helpy. Wait for them to kind of fade away or go away completely, but probably don't wait that long. Just wait for them to fade to the point where you can quickly reach in and click him, and then close the right vent, and this should get you coins quickly, right? So you're going to be adding up coins, and obviously I put on the mask, and I don't want Nightmarionne to spawn, and I've already handled the 3 in the ducks. I've handled Toy Freddy, we're going to forget about him, and at this point we are kind of, you know, just following a rhythm here. Obviously there will be more characters spawning, but just up and down with the cameras. Make sure you get rid of anyone who is a problem, especially Helpy, BB and JJ, which you need to do to get the coins, but just be careful of characters like Nightmarionne as well. Now, as you can see, 2 things is L chip, which you just click enter, because when Nightmarionne is in the game, you don't want to reach your mouse over and click the skip button, because then, you know, they could be right there and then they start to spawn and you die and you don't notice. So just take your hand, whichever hand is on the mouse, off the mouse and click the enter button. Now this is pretty hard to learn, hard to do, especially get good at, but you will be able to learn it just taking your hand off and clicking enter. And our chip spawns every 10 seconds. So every 10 seconds, if you're in a safe period where nothing's really happening, you can just take your hand off, and if your mouse is already on the left side of the screen, so you're not affected by Nightmarionne, you just take your hand off and click enter, and sometimes it won't spawn. Most of the time it will every 10 seconds, so you just, you know, get rid of the ad. That you can leave it on the screen for a few seconds. You can do everything that you can do normally with the ad in the way, it just blocks your view, so you don't know if you did, you know, everything correctly. Now, something you didn't see, right, because this is my second time winning, so I've kind of learnt from audio cues and visual cues what to do, is that Nightmare BB, this guy down in the corner who is currently sitting down, when the ad was up, I flashed him with my flashlight. So if he's standing up, flash him to make him sit down. If he's sitting down, don't flash him. That's another reason why we want to stay on the left side of the screen, because we need to use the flashlight for other characters. So just don't stay on the right side of the screen, especially not often. Don't only go over there if you need to look for something or if you need to flash Nightmare BB, right? And now, as you can see, there is another character here, which is Zor. So Zor, or XOR, can spawn on the 11-second mark, and then every 10 seconds from the 11-second mark, they'll spawn also. So 11 seconds, 21 seconds, right? And past that point, at around 31 seconds, especially your first time doing it, just give up. So if you don't see them spawn at 21 seconds, that is the time where you should just hold down the escape button or the quit button and just exit, because it is kind of pointless, especially the first time. It's going to be really, the longer you wait, the harder it is. But both times that I won was 11 seconds. Even though I wanted it that the second time I won, I wanted it to be 21 seconds so I could have a better understanding of what to do at 21 seconds. They spawned at 11, and that's the time I win again. So it's clearly proof that 11 is the easiest, and you're most likely to win if Zor spawns at 11. Now, what Zor will do is spawn the 6 secret characters automatically, right? All of them will spawn as soon as Zor spawns. They'll spawn every secret character. So the only thing you're betting on is that Zor spawns, and not that the secret characters will be there if Zor does spawn. And the 6 of them, which we'll talk about when they arrive. But basically, if it's 11 or 21 and Zor is not there, right, you don't want to do that. Also, if you're getting coins really slow, you're getting bad luck and no one's spawning for coins, and it's around the time where you need to go on the cameras, which, when we get there, you'll see, you just want to give up, right? If you're at the time where you want to be on the cameras, you have like 7 coins, it's not worth it to keep going. Just exit the game. And there's a lot of things like this where you just need to exit because, it's all gone bad, or just one thing didn't work out, so you just need to quit. Now, 3 things are happening. You can't see at all, but I will have pictures on the screen. Toy Chica and possibly Toy Bonnet, which I don't know yet because I can't see, but just Toy Chica is spawning. So put the mask on when you hear that kind of buzzing sound, and also when the screen starts to flicker, that means you need to put the mask on. That is the indication. Also, second thing is Ballora, who to me is a very hard character. I have got better and better at handling her, but I still just close both doors when you're supposed to listen and know which door she's coming from. But I just closed both doors, right? Just to, get rid of her. I knew that she was at the left, but I didn't want to risk it, and I'm not very good at doing it. So I just close both, and then as soon as you hear the thud, she's gone. You still can sometimes lose to her, but if you just close both doors or know which door she's coming from and close that door, then you should be fine. So that's 2 things down. And the third thing is actually 3 characters. We have Lefty, Chica, and the puppet. So I'm just going to say 14 seconds. It should be 15-second cycles, but just to make it better, 14-second mark, right? As soon as you see 14 or 14 point something, you want to click the 5 key, also known as the global music box, because we will not be handling Chica's mechanic, we will not be handling the puppet's mechanic, and we will not be, we will be handling Lefty. He kind of just fits into the cycle, but the global music box soothes all of them, so you don't really have to deal with the actual mechanics, which make it actually impossible to do their actual mechanics. So we just turn on the global music box, and from 14 seconds to 30 seconds or 31 seconds, you should always have it on for longer than anything else, right? Which we'll talk about when we get to 30 seconds. But usually around 14 seconds to 31 seconds, you want the global music box on instead of the power generator, and that will just soothe them. So then when it gets to 44 seconds, you put it back on again, and then 14, 44, 14, 44. Every time you see those numbers, put it on. You can do 15 and 45, but that leaves more risk, so just try and do 14, 44, which makes, it does waste a little bit more power, but really you should be, yeah, especially the first time, kind of keeping a safer cycle there. So those are 3 big things that have just happened, but when you learn them, it kind of does just become a cycle. You know what you're doing, you know how to handle things, you know how to multitask. So obviously I survive here and I do everything correctly, and then after the screen, you know, we can see again, then I'll see what's going on and explain any other characters that have arrived. I don't know if you could, you definitely couldn't see it, but you could hear it. The fish, Old Man Consequences. You could hear the little pixelated sound, which is, if you've played this game, you should know who that is. A fish spawns, you have to click C to catch the fish when it lands on the X or the cross, and you can just spam C. It's okay if you miss, you just have to get it in time, so you can just spam C. And what I've noticed is that a lot of the time, Old Man Consequences will spawn after Ballora, so if Ballora ever spawns, or even Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie, you can just spam C and you'll most likely hear the sound that you've got the fish. And we do not want to miss Old Man Consequences. He will lock us out of the cameras, so if we miss it, that is a problem. It's not a very big problem, but it is really bad and makes everything a lot harder or even impossible to an extent. So we cannot miss the fish. Alright, so that's 4 things we just handled in the matter of like 2 seconds, and as you can see, there's a bar on the screen saying new challenger has appeared, which, you know, that is Zor spawning their first secret character. So we just want to, you know, that doesn't really matter, but just, you know, it tells you that a new character is spawned. But if we follow a rhythm, we shouldn't have to focus on it saying a new challenger has appeared. We'll just handle them when they actually arrive. And even when it's gone dark, I'm still going to try and flip up the camera and get the coins and, you know, do everything that I need to do. I'm currently at 8 coins at 20 seconds, which is very good. As you can see, we have Nightmarionne. We have another character spawning, which is Phantom Freddy, which you just hold the flashlight on him. I'm not very good at using the flashlight. I kind of waste a lot of power on the flashlight, but you just flash him and he'll go away. You can either flicker the light or hold it. It actually doesn't matter. I think it is less power to just flicker the light, but as you can see, he's barely spawned in, but we really don't want him spawning in at all. Okay, now you can also see this mute call button, which is right over Nightmarionne, so that is a problem, and we kind of just want to be careful with that. The phone call does follow your screen. This is Phone Guy, by the way. It does follow your screen, so if I move the camera to the right, which I need to do to flash Nightmare BB, who you can barely see behind this other character who I'll talk about, you know, I can click it because it will then be off Nightmarionne because I've moved to the right. Okay, so then we always want to mute the call, just like Helpy. We always want it gone, but it is more important than Helpy because it has constant noise if it goes off before you click mute. Sometimes it can be in a corner where you just can't see it, and like I said, if you do have the mask on, it is easier to see the call. If you can't see it, you can just put the mask on really quick to see where it is, but sometimes it will be under text, you know, in this corner of the coins, or here, and that can kind of be a problem. So you just want to make sure you're always getting it, and you can miss it, by the way. You can still survive if you miss it, but usually you will lose to the phone call, which will add a lot of noise, to Music Man, who is just a character who we don't want to have a lot of noise. If there's a lot of noise, he will get us. That's just it. And then this character is the first secret character of Zor, Shadow Bonnie. Now, Shadow Bonnie is not really a problem, and they don't really, you know, add much of a threat. You can't really get rid of them, but they will make the office really dark, so you can't really see, and you cannot tell if your doors are opened or closed, which can be a problem sometimes if you accidentally have a door closed, which we absolutely don't want to do. But, you know, Shadow Bonnie is probably the least threatening out of the 6 secret characters. As you can see, I look to the right, so the mute phone call button moves to the right with me, and I flash Nightmare BB, so that's all handled. So it's just Shadow Bonnie and Phantom Freddy who are currently, you know, a threat, even though we can't do anything about Shadow Bonnie. flip up the camera, trying to get to 10 coins by around 26 seconds. I would say you should have it before 24 seconds, but 26. Now we can actually see Old Man Consequences this time, so just click C when the fish is over that cross. And there we go, pop Helpy, flash Phantom Freddy, and now is the big part. This is the big thing that we need to be worrying about. So we are currently at 11 coins because Helpy and BB or JJ spawned right at that last camera flip. At 24 seconds, it is 25 seconds, but at around 24 seconds, you want to click 3, which is the heater, or whatever keybind the heater is for you. Click 3 for the heater, and just for 2 seconds, right until 26 seconds, have the heater on, which will help for the other 2 characters, which I was going to mention, Orville and Nedd. Right, so those 2 characters are the other 2 in the ducks that they're kind of fooled, but not really. They usually do just get through, but they are affected by the heater, which sends them right back up to the top of the ducks. So just turn on the heater before you open the cameras for about 2 seconds, and then when it reaches 26 seconds, switch back to the global music box. Now, something that I have learnt is that it is worth noting who is on the table here. So as you can see, it's Bonnet, which is good and probably a reason why I won. But if it is Foxy, something you can do, which I'll show you when we go on the cameras, is go to Pirate's Cove and just look at him, which should reset the progress he has. Because even though if you've played this game, you know that Foxy comes in physically, you can see his parts come into the office, you know, one by one. It is actually just a progression bar, and those are just visible representations of how far he is into getting to you. But he will progress as long as he's on the table, even if you don't see him there. So if Bonnet's there, kind of just forget about it. But if you do see Foxy, right, maybe not the first time you win, but if you do see him, I would recommend going to camera 5, I think it is, and just for 1 second, less than a second, just look at him. Not even look at him, just click on the camera and then follow the normal rhythm. But that is something worth noting if you are having issues, which I'll explain when we go into the cameras better. When it reaches around 26 seconds, which is important, I'll explain why, you want to close the left door, top vent, and right vent. Something that I have learned is that besides Afton or Springtrap, you can leave the right vent open and just close it when you go onto the cameras, which can give you an extra coin because they don't spawn if the vent is already closed, BB and JJ. But with the right door, you're wondering, why didn't I say the right door? Why aren't we closing that? Because it is quite unnecessary. It does waste a lot of power. Obviously, Ballora can be there and Nightmare can be there. But when you're on the cameras, Ballora makes the cameras go all staticky, so you can close the right door. Then if you see the static, even if you don't hear it, you can close it then and then just open it again. So you really, when you go on the cameras here, you only want to be focused on the right door and not actually the 3 doors that you have closed, which is left door, top vent, right? But the right door, if you hear the laugh, which is sometimes hard to hear, so you can just kind of guess it sometimes, or if it goes staticky or you do just hear Ballora, you can just close the right door and open it again. And it is kind of the same for the left door, but I just keep the left door closed because you can't really tell. There is no audio cue for Freddy, who is the problem with the left door. So since we're not going to see Freddy actually, I'm just going to talk about him now. He comes to the left door, and every time we flip up the cameras, we're going to close the left door, which I'll explain better when we get there. But right now, 3 doors closed. You can close the left door, but that does add a bit of risk. And also, you know, we moved the wet floor sign to the right, so Rockstar Chica won't be a problem there, already blocked off. And like I said, we will be closing the left door, so that's the double block, right? So at 26 seconds, you should, or around there, you should be switching back to global music box and closing the 3 doors and get ready to open the cameras as soon as you do that. But why do you go on the cameras at 26 seconds? It's because Withered Bonnet and Rockstar Bonnet will both spawn every 13 seconds, and if they spawn, that is very, very bad. It kind of makes things either really, really hard to deal with, sometimes you can get lucky, or impossible, right? Withered Bonnet, if he spawns right when you go on the cameras, so if you open the cameras at 25 and he spawns at 26, it's basically just over. He still is handleable, right? If you open the cameras at around 13 seconds, you know, accidentally, because you're just trying to open it, close it as quick as you can. If you open it at 13 seconds and he does spawn, just put on the mask. But then you have Rockstar Bunny, who is more of a problem, right? Luckily, he does his guitar, but his mechanic is basically when he spawns in your office, you need to search the cameras for his guitar and click on it. Luckily, his guitar does spawn on kind of all the cameras you look at, which is Toy Freddy's camera and the prize corner and Funtime Cove, which we'll get to, and also camera 2, which we'll also get to. But those cameras that it can spawn on are the cameras that you'll be looking at anyway. So sometimes you'll see the guitar, you know, you won't know he spawned, but you'll see the guitar and then you'll know, okay, he spawned, I should just click on that before I change cameras, and then he won't kill you later on. And I'll explain why a lot of this stuff isn't possible to kind of fix later on, and you know, it all makes sense after you get off the cameras. At this first big section, right, we've been grinding out coins, handling a lot of the threats, about, you know, 10 threats already, just in like the first 10 seconds you saw about 10 threats, right? So we just want to go into the cameras after we've closed the 3 doors and also had the heater on for 2 seconds and also switch back to the music box. A lot to take in, but you will learn it like a rhythm. Now, 21 seconds. If Saw spawns at 21 seconds, what do? I did play a lot more after my first victory and kind of found out that you should, 27 point something seconds, you turn on the heater, and at around 30 or 29 point something, you put back on the music box, and then, you know, you'll probably see Ballora, the ad, like El Chip, and Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie, they'll probably most likely spawn around that time, which is kind of a problem, but you just want to switch back to the music box, and then at about 33 seconds, or when you're on the cameras when you think the time is right, when it's been long enough with the music box on, you can switch to the fan and the power generator, which is the part of the cycle that every 30 seconds and 1 minute we'll have the fan and power generator. But at the start we just wanted the power generator because it was already very cool, but right here every 30 seconds, 1 minute, so on, you know, 1 minute 30, 2 minutes, we want to switch from the global music box to both of them, right? Because the fan can go on with every system, but the systems can't cross over. So if we could have the global music box and the power generator and the fan all at once, you know, that would waste more power because we don't actually need that, but that would be, you know, kind of helpful sometimes. But the power generator does switch off the global music box, and the global music box does switch off the power generator, but the fan will stay on. So close the 3 doors. As you can see, the power bar just went all the way up, and we went onto the cameras and immediately go from the ducks to the cam system. Now, as you can see, Phantom Mangle and Phantom BB, who are the 2 characters who really won't be a problem later, who I hadn't talked about, there is no Phantom Mangle. Phantom Mangle is basically a system character that whenever you see them, you just switch systems to one of the 3, one of the ones you're not on, and then, you know, Phantom Mangle will be gone. But at the start, you already switched the ducks, which is necessary, so, you know, they aren't a problem. And then Phantom BB is a camera character, but if you go to another system, he does go away anyways. So at the start, the very first flip, they shouldn't be a problem, but if you ever see them, you know, Phantom BB is camera switch and Phantom Mangle is a system switch. Now, 2 things I did forget to mention is 2 things that can be pretty problematic. One is Nightmarionne spawning over the wet floor sign at the start, which happens pretty often. You know, they spawn immediately and you can't really move it, and from that point on, you can just end it. You can just, like, you know, try again, or you can, which is the better option, try to immediately go on the cameras before they fully spawn, you know, do the normal duck system, cam system, Toy Freddy, and then later on, when Nightmarionne's fully disappeared, hopefully, you know, sometimes Helpy will spawn a lot and Nightmarionne will keep appearing and you can't really move the wet floor sign. Hopefully, at one point later before you have to go on the cameras, Nightmarionne will fully disappear and you can move the wet floor sign, and, you know, you don't actually have to do the wet floor sign at the very start, but, you know, it is a lot easier to just do it immediately. But if Nightmarionne is there, you can go into the cameras and just do normal stuff and switch it later. And then the second thing can happen is Trash in the Gang, specifically Mr. Can-Do, the balloon, can spawn on Toy Freddy's camera, which just means you can't see. So if that happens, you want to go out of the cameras, right, deal with everything that's there, get the coins, any threats, go back onto the cameras, switch the systems, you know, duck camera or vent camera, which will get rid of Phantom BB and Phantom Mangle. Just to quickly do that, and the ad might spawn, which could be a problem, but hopefully the balloon should be gone. If it's not, you can just go out of the cameras and try again. But if the balloon's there like 3 times that you try, you may as well just give up, because at that point it's getting too late for you know, to do it. You can actually, you know, keep trying, but you want to be getting coins as quick as possible. If you keep trying to do it, then you're just wasting a lot of time. But if the balloon spawns, you just want to get rid of everything that's there, go onto the cameras, switch systems, go back, check the cameras. If you do hear Nightmare or Nightmare Fredbear, you can be quick, or just, you know, close their door if you know who's there while you're on the cameras. But you just want to be quick, close off Mr. Hugs on Toy Freddy's camera, and then go to the prize corner and go to the duck system and do everything as normal. So those are 2 things that can happen, which didn't happen when I won both times, but they are things that can happen. So you want to make sure that Nightmarionne hopefully doesn't spawn immediately over the wet floor sign. Hopefully Mr. Candu doesn't spawn on Toy Freddy's camera as soon as you flip up the cameras, and you want to hope that Zor does spawn, right? So that's a lot of things immediately that you want to get lucky with. And obviously then with Toy Freddy, you want to make sure, especially when you're in this long period where you're gonna have the cameras open here, that you just don't get unlucky and he gets you, right? So that can be a problem. There's a lot of luck in this game, which is annoying. So it's beatable, but it's not that repeatable, even if you get very good at it. So go to the camera system. Now Mr. Candu can spawn here as well, but it is a bit easier because you can just like kind of click around and try and find where the buy button is for the death coin, which is right here, which is what we want to get for 10 coins. Obviously, all my consequences here, we need to stop him as quick as we can. And if I hear Nightmare or Ballora makes the cameras go staticky, I'll just close the right door and open it again. After you have bought the coin, you want to go straight to Funtime Cove, where there is 2 big threats here, which is Plushtrap, which is the second secret character that Zor spawns, and you just want to watch him for, I think it's 1.8 seconds here, and he'll go away, and then he's done for the rest of the night. And then also Funtime Foxy, whose mechanic is that, as you can see, his showtime is at 1 AM. You can't really see it, but it does say 1 AM there, so I think the next time he'll be spawning is 3 AM or 4 AM, and he has 2 showtimes. He doesn't always have 2 showtimes. If his first showtime's at 3, then he won't have another one. But we want to get rid of him, and I'll explain why in a second, but we cannot stay on this camera to come back and stop him. You need to be on the camera at that exact second of that time. So 1 AM is 45 seconds, because every hour is 45 seconds. We need to be on at exactly 45 seconds, but we cannot do that because it clashes with other characters' mechanics. So we buy the death coin, and now his curtain is closed. He is now gone. He's not a problem anymore, right? And as you can see, the ventilation is going off now, right now, or in a second, which the ad didn't spawn, which is lucky, El Chip, but we should reset the ventilation as soon as we can. Obviously, if Ballora Nightmare spawn, that's obviously something you have to take into account, but the ventilation is something that you should mainly focus on, turning it off before you go off the cameras, right? And sometimes it can be hard to see if Plushtrap's gone, specifically if Ballora spawns, or, you know, if Toy Chica or Toy Bonnet spawn, making the screen flicker. But you should just be able to know the time when he leaves. And as you can see, he ran away, and now he is no longer a threat. I reset the ventilation, and I quickly went to camera 2, went off, opened all 3 doors as soon as you go up. Like, as soon as you go off the cameras, you want to immediately open all 3, which is A, W, and F, which is the left door, top vent, right vent, right? Just immediately do that, okay? And I'd recommend, as soon as you come off the cameras, also trying to close the right door in case Nightmare is there, and then just open it again, because sometimes he will just be there and you won't notice, and then he'll get you the next time you try to open the cameras. Now, as you can see, Shadow Bonnie's still there, Helpy's now spawned. Every time I come out of the cameras, I'm going to put on the mask, and I also do close the right vent every time I come out of the cameras, just in case BB and JJ are there. So, you know, there's obviously all these threats, but why did I go to camera 2? because there is 4 characters who we just need a camera stall, because we cannot fulfill their mechanic like a lot of other mechanics. So we'll be doing a trick where if we look at the camera 2, none of them will attack ever. So that is Nightmare Bonnie, Rockstar Chica, who I'll talk about in a second how to, because we were talking about her at the start, but we're actually going to change up what we do in a second. Baby, and also Nightmare Mangle. What you're supposed to do for the 3 characters that aren't Rockstar Chica is that you buy their plushie in the prize corner for 20 coins, but obviously that is very hard to do because we need to be saving up coins a lot more than we already have, right? And then buy their plushie, and then they won't attack, they won't spawn, they'll go away. But if we camera stall them, which is watching their camera, then they just won't attack, right? We don't need to be constantly on the cameras, but just clicking on their cameras. And that's why we also can't do Funtime Foxy, because when we're watching camera 2, if we leave for even a frame, if we leave that camera, click off it, then they will immediately, whoever is there, whoever spawned, either Baby, Nightmare Bonnie, or Nightmare Mangle, will immediately get us, right? So we need to death coin Funtime Foxy so we don't show up for his showtime, right? And we've already handled Toy Freddy, basically. Obviously, you can still die, unluckily, sometime later during the night. But it's usually that first period of time where he will get to you. We have handled Funtime Foxy, Plushtrap, Shadow Bonnie is now here. There's new secret characters that are spawning, but until they arrive, I won't explain how they work. And then every other threat that's in the office, you've already handled, besides one more that I haven't mentioned, which is Nightmare Freddy. Now, Nightmare Freddy basically just works the same as Phantom Freddy, except, he only usually spawns around here on the camera for a long period of time, like the start flip, or that flip that we just did on the cameras, and you just want to flash your flashlight until you stop hearing the Freddles, or stop seeing the Freddles that will be on the ground around the same area that Phantom Freddy is. So, you can flash the right side as well, but then Nightmare Baby. So just flash the left side of the room, until you hear the Freddles go away, or until you don't see them anymore. Specifically if you don't hear them, because some of them you might not be able to see because of all the other characters standing in the office. Now, as you can see, here is another secret character, and also the temperature, if you just saw it for a frame there, it did turn red, which we never want. We never want the temperature turning to too hot, otherwise Jack-O-Chica will attack us. Jack-O-Chica does kind of progress randomly. Sometimes she'll attack like immediately, or sometimes you can cool it down before she even spawns. It's kind of random, but you never want it to get hot, never even like deep into the 90s range. You kind of want it 90 or below the entire night, which is why we turn every 30 seconds and 1 minute, we turn on the fan and the power generator. But before we turn on the fan and power generator, as you can see, it's already at the 30-second mark, so we should already have that on. We want to click 4, or the aircon, the AC, the power AC, to get rid of these teeth, which is the secret character, right? So Nightmare Chica, which is the 3rd secret character, the teeth will start closing, right? And this is why getting 21 seconds is a bit harder, because turning on the power AC does kind of break into the global music box cycle. So 21 seconds is harder, so I'd recommend the first time you win, probably it will be 11 seconds when Zor spawns. So the teeth are coming down, but it is 34 seconds, so you already need the fan on, so you can just turn on the power AC immediately. The teeth will go away, the heat will go down, and we turn on the power generator and fan as quick as we can as soon as the teeth are gone to save power. And as you can see, here is another threat who did spawn before but is only a threat now because she is looking up, and that is Scrap Baby. And as you can see, there's a shock box on the table. If she's looking down, you can zap, it actually does nothing, but she won't leave. But if she's looking up, you must click the zap box before you open the cameras next. And after you do that, she will actually disappear, but if you do open the cameras, then that is a problem. She will end your run, and that's just over. Now, as you could just see, I tried to click the shock box for Scrap Baby, and Nightmarionne started spawning, so this was very close to me losing, but I do quickly move my mouse away. And another thing that you just saw was Funtime Chica, who just flashes your screen with these big white orbs, and it is kind of hard to see, and her audio does sometimes cut off other audios, which does make it hard to hear things. But you know, most of the time it would just be a distraction. It just really won't do anything, especially in like a calm period. You know, it doesn't really affect you, but sometimes it can be a little bit annoying, like you can't see or hear things. So Scrap Baby is done. Funtime Chica is just a distraction. Nightmarionne almost got me. Like I said, Nightmarionne is always a problem and is very annoying. But if you've made it to this point, everything should be okay, but there's one last important thing we need to mention. Actually, it shouldn't be your main focus because you can wait, but you want to move the wet floor sign back to the left, which I don't really, it's not that necessary to move it actually, because you'll be closing the left door every time I open the cameras anyway, because I'll explain why I do it differently from other people. But basically, you just want to move it to the left because your camera's still in the right. So if it's on the left and your camera's still in the right, Rockstar Chica will never attack, and now she's just done. You know, her mechanic is just pointless now. It's over, right? One last thing, when I can actually see, is who is on the desk. Now, luckily, very luckily, it is actually still Bonnet, right? So we're not going to worry about this. But if it is Foxy, who is the, you know, one of the biggest problem, probably the second hardest or the hardest character in the game, will be on the desk, and when he spawns, I'll show you what to do. But basically, you just want to make sure that if he's there, that he's basically, besides the things that are literally about to kill you, that he is the main focus to change his figurine on the desk to Bonnet, which I'll explain when he actually spawns. So past this point, you should be fine. It's about to reach 44 seconds. So as you can see, I switched it from the fan and the power generator to the global music box. There was El Chip, there was Old Man Consequences, Funtime Chica, Nightmarionne. These constant threats that are kind of always there. Obviously, you need to check, is Nightmare BB standing up? And I'll talk about Rockstar Freddy when he's actually a problem. Is Scrap Baby looking at me? Is the figurine there? It is a lot to take in, obviously, but you do get into a rhythm and you do learn it. Now, if it is really hot, right, if it's 44 seconds and you just switch to the global music box and the heat is like just about to reach 90, you do kind of have to keep the fan on until it reaches kind of 85, maybe just 80 range, with the global music box, which does waste a lot of power, but Jack-O-Chica sometimes can be unfair, so you just want that on. Now that was the next secret character, who is Bonnet. Out of all the secret characters, Bonnet is probably, you know, the most frequent and considerably the hardest one to deal with. But you just click on Bonnet's nose and she'll fall to the bottom of the screen. She'll be gone, and if she reaches the other side, she'll kill you. But you just, every time you see her or hear her, which her audio can be cut off by characters like Toy Chica, Toy Bonnet, Ballora, or Funtime Chica, or the phone guy, right? But you will be able to see her even with the mask on. You just click her nose. You don't even need to see the nose. You can click the nose with the mask on, and then she'll just go away. But it is pretty obvious when she's there with the audio and, you know, seeing her visually. But sometimes she can reach the other side without you knowing. And all the other characters that are spawning, the secret characters, will not spawn until we next flip up the camera, so they aren't a problem right now. Actually, I think it's only one that doesn't spawn, so yeah. Okay, two things just happened. First, secret character, which you can't really see, but this is Lolbit, right? So Lolbit, she spawns one time, and you just take your hand off the mouse and click L, O, and L. Just keep clicking LOL, specifically LOL, and then, you know, Lolbit will go away. All she does is make a lot of noise, spawns once, just get rid of her. She shouldn't be your main focus if something else is attacking, like what is happening right now. But you just want to click LOL, get rid of her, and then she'll be gone. The noise that she makes actually isn't that problematic. It really hasn't ever spawned Music Man or made him that aggravated for me. But you do want to get rid of it, right? And the other threat, which has just spawned, is Afton, or Springtrap, right? So he'll spawn one time throughout the entire night, and you have about 1 point something seconds to block him off with the right vent. And then once you hear the thud, he's gone. He does make the screen very dark and makes a very loud sound, but you do have to be quick. Sometimes you can make mistakes or just miss it. So he is kind of problematic, but he shouldn't be that big of a problem. You just block him off once and then he's gone. See, there's Toy Bonnie. I don't think we saw him at any other point. Maybe he did spawn the first time. But Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica are basically the same. Toy Chica is every 14 seconds. Toy Bonnie is every 15 seconds. But you don't really have to, count that down. Just, be ready to put on the mask. Now, you could barely hear Ballora there and, Old Man Consequences and Toy Chica, but around this time, around 1:13 is what I'd recommend. You want to open the cameras and reset the ventilation, and as soon as you come out, you turn on the global music box, because like I said, it's every 14 and 44 seconds, and as we go along, I'll be explaining the best times to open the camera and reset the ventilation. But before we go into the cameras, this is what I do, what people usually don't do. They usually actually close the left door for Freddy, turn on the heater for the guys in the ducks, and then only close the top vent, which is necessary because some characters like Mangle and Withered Chica actually just sit there at the top and they don't actually ever go away, so you need it closed while the cameras are open, because there are many different vent characters, right? There's Ennard, Molten Freddy, Springtrap, there's Mangle and Withered Chica, who are different from the others, but with something called office stalling, which you saw in the diagram. All the characters, the vent characters, Freddy and also Orville and Nedd, they won't attack until the cameras come up. So as soon as you're about to put the cameras up and reset the ventilation, what I do is I just close the left door, close the top vent, turn on the heater, so all three of those keybinds in a row on a keyboard, A, W, and 3, click them all, click S, the keybind for the cameras, you click reset ventilation with your mouse, always have it like placed right here so you're ready for it to click the button, and then go out of the cameras, put the mask on, click the 3 again, so you want to open the 2 doors and turn off the heater, and then at least this first flip, as soon as we come out, we want to immediately turn on the music box, because it will be 14 seconds when we come out. So, you just want to go in with those 3 on. Obviously, doing this can sometimes be inconsistent if the heater doesn't work before you go in. So maybe you want to turn on the heater a few seconds before you go into the cameras at the start. But, I would just recommend my strategy, which is usually works like 99% of the time, just closing the left door, top vent and heater, then going into the cameras, then going out and turning them all off. And as you could hear, everyone got blocked off and no one attacked me, and now there's Helpy, and there's I don't know if you saw it, but Nightmare BB was also standing up. And now here's the last secret character, the Minireenas. They just block your screen. They're like Shadow Bonnie, but a lot worse, because you can't really see what's going on. But you can kind of hear for characters like Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear if they spawn, and then also BB and JJ, you can just kind of guess the vent every time you come into the cameras. But characters like Foxy and Bonnie, who are on the desk, and also Nightmare BB, sometimes they're hard to see. It also makes the phone calls harder to see, just basically everything harder, right? And sometimes you won't even notice that your mouse is over Nightmarionne because of the Minireenas, and then you'll die, right? What I just did there is what I would recommend doing over what people usually do, which is closing the left door, closing the top vent, possibly turning on the heater, but probably just those 2, opening the cameras, and then going, out of the cameras and putting on the mask and hoping that Foxy switched to Bonnie, which I feel like no one really does that anymore. It was kind of just the first winners, first time doing it. You just they didn't know about the 0 frame camera flip, which is kind of the new way to do it, where if you flick your mouse over the camera button, which is, there's different ways to actually do the 0 frame camera flip, but what I would just recommend is the easiest, flipping your mouse over the cameras twice, and no one else will spawn, no one else will get through, because you're not even on there for a frame, 0 frames. But for some reason that does change the figure on the desk, and you want to change it from Foxy to Bonnie. Now obviously because of the Minireenas, I can't really see who is on the desk at all times, but I can kind of tell through this gap that is Foxy. I can see the red. So I failed that camera flip. He can just be stubborn. That's why he's so annoying, because he will just progress and you can't really get rid of him. Sometimes he'll just be stuck there. He won't switch out for Bonnie, but I will keep trying. Right, I'll keep trying to do the 0 frame camera flip, make it your first priority to get rid of him if he's there, right? And I'll keep trying until I switch him. Sometimes Nightmarionne can be there and be a problem, but you should just try and keep doing it quick as you can to get rid of him. You can't really see, but I knew he was still there clearly, because I'm gonna do it again here. And this time, as you can see, tiny little gap, Bonnie is there. Now Phantom Freddy is spawning, so I should probably flash him, but Bonnie is there, and as long as Foxy is on the table, he will progress, but if Bonnie's on the table, he won't. So you always want to see Bonnie on the table as quick as possible every time you come around the cameras. So besides Funtime Foxy, Foxy is probably the biggest threat, or considerably the hardest and most annoying character. It turned to 30 seconds, so I switched to fan and power generator. And you do want to keep up more with the global music box than the power generator and the fan, so you can dig into that time, you know, into 30 seconds or into a minute, still keeping the global music box on. If you need it for longer for some reason, maybe you made a mistake and kind of missed the first 2 seconds that you should have had it on, and now you need it on for a few extra seconds there. So always try and get, you know, at least 15 seconds of global music box time. Now, I basically couldn't see there, but obviously until it goes pitch black, you can still do the camera flip, and you do want to leave it as long as possible for, you know, Bonnie to stay on the table. And I'd recommend doing that second flip at around 1 minute, like 58 seconds, but keep the music box on. Don't immediately switch the fan like we did with the music box when we come out of the cameras. Turn the music box back on just for a few seconds, because you had it turned off with the heater there. So turn that back on, and then at around, you know, 2 minutes, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, turn the fan and the power generator on. Now, I think I have mentioned every character, every threat, so now everyone has been dealt with. You understand how to deal with them. You just need to get lucky with Foxy that he isn't stubborn on the desk. Hopefully Toy Freddy doesn't kill you. Hopefully you can handle everyone else like Nightmarionne and Ballora. And from this point on, you should just know how to handle everyone and just get lucky with them. See, that time Foxy was only there for, you know, 2 camera flips. Sometimes it's just 1, sometimes it's like infinite, like he doesn't go away. And the most constant threats will probably be El Chip and Old Man Consequences, constantly coming back, and then, you know, followed by Phone Guy and also Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie, Ballora. These kind of active threats that will always be going on. Surprisingly, very surprisingly, Rockstar Freddy has not activated once, alright? And I also haven't mentioned Rockstar Foxy. Rockstar Foxy, his parrot will just come along, just ignore it, that's just it. He's kind of just a freebie, you don't really have to handle him. But Rockstar Freddy still hasn't moved, so we're just going to wait for him to actually activate here. There we go. So Rockstar Freddy is now activated. I'll just unpause it for a second. Usually you do not get this lucky with him where he does not spawn until this late. Usually he'll spawn like every time you flip up the cameras. But I got so lucky that he only came now. And you just, since I'm on 20 coins, I'm just going to pay him. You should always try and pay him after you've already bought the death coin. Always try and pay him every time you close the cameras. But if you can't, you can just turn on the heater, but obviously the heater is, you know, making it a lot hotter. And if you've just started a music box cycle like I just did then it could get pretty hot and kind of maybe spawn Jack-O-Chica, and that's a problem. So try and have the heater on for as quick as possible. But I have had times where he takes so long, like actually 8 seconds just to turn off with the heater. So if you have coins, I'd recommend paying. You can also get coins by blocking off BB and JJ, or if you hear anyone in the top vent, even though they won't attack you until you flip up the cameras, you can block them off to get the coins. If you need that, you know, just one extra coin, and you should be able to reach the coins to pay, but sometimes you can't, especially just after you bought the death coin. So turn on the heater for a very short period of time. If it doesn't deactivate, you're just gonna have to keep trying to turn it on until he goes away, right? So you want to keep it cool, but sometimes you won't be able to pay him, and you just need to turn on the heater.
Please deposit.
And also sometimes Nightmarionne can spawn over his pay button, which can be annoying.
Thank you for depositing.
There we
5
go,
coins.
Foxy went away immediately that time. As you could just see there, I kind of, you know, ignored it, but Rockstar Foxy's parrot did come by. It comes by every 1 minute, I think, and, well, not every 1 minute, it's like, it sometimes comes by, but it will spawn every 1 minute if it does. You just ignore it, that's just it. Obviously, if you have the phone call running, and you hear Music Man clashing his cymbals, you can try and risk it and get soundproof, but a lot of the time you'll just die to it. You see that? That was 4 times that he didn't leave, and I almost did it again, but luckily I saw Bonnet just before I did it, and I'm going to move over to the left for Nightmarionne, and luckily, you know, he actually did go away. Sometimes he will just actually stay there, but you know, it did take him 4 times, whereas last time it was just 1 time, so it is kind of annoyingly unlucky sometimes. Now, I did forget to mention about the camera flips. Usually, when you're already in the fan cycle, you want to reset the ventilation at 13 or 43 seconds to, as soon as you come out, you immediately go to the music box, or usually around something 8 seconds, right? 28, 58, whatever number it is, to, you know, you still want to put back on the music box, but around the time where it's gotten pretty dark and you're about to switch to the fan, but don't switch to the fan immediately. So, you know, those are the kind of times you want to reset it, leave it for as long as possible. As you can see, because of how long Foxy stayed on the table, he's actually, most of him has got into the office right now. So that is actually, you know, showing that I could have lost. Like, he could have not been in the office at all. As soon as I flipped up the cameras, he could have spawned in. So as soon as you do the last flip, either 3 minutes, like 40, 50 something, or 4 minutes, around, you know, 13, 14 seconds. Because the camera flips do sometimes get desynced because of the heat, which changes, you know, if it gets hot, you have to open it more times, so it kind of, you know, desyncs when a specific time where you should be doing it. But as you can see, here's his legs, and on the other side I could see his torso, so, you know, he was actually pretty close to attacking there. But the night ends at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, so very short amount of time to go.
Deposit 5 coins. Thank you for depositing 5 coins.
Now, as you can see, he just went all the way up. So what I do is I turn on the fan right now during the global music box time, but then because it's so hot and I really didn't want to die to Jack-O-Chica, I actually turned on the power AC, which is 4, right? The 4 keybind. But this is draining my power pretty quickly, so right here you'll see Toy Chica does spawn, and I put on the mask, and I didn't actually know this, but running out of power takes off your mask, but luckily we only have 2 seconds left, and it ends and she doesn't get me, and that's it, right? So some things will happen where you'll get unlucky, sometimes you will get very lucky, like I did, you know, most of the time in that run, and everything, if you keep in the cycles and you handle all the characters like I explained them, you should be able to win it. Now, the most annoying things about these, trying to beat 50-20, all the runs that you're going to do, is Zor spawning. They are one of the most annoying things, right? Foxy being stubborn, Toy Freddy killing you at the start, or just something else, things spawning at the same time. Sometimes I've had literally like L-Chip, Toy Chica, Toy Bonnet, Ballora, Afton, Lolbit, all at the same time, and like you can't really focus on that. Sometimes you will just lose, and sometimes you will just get unlucky. There is a lot of luck to it. But I hope that this could help some people, someone who still is trying to do it, to beat 50-20 and understand the characters better, and maybe some tips that I put in there that could help. One last thing that I want to mention about Foxy, which I only mentioned in the last video, the progression guide, is that, you should wait a few seconds. You shouldn't try to, as soon as you go out the cameras, before you even put on the mask, try to do the camera flip, or like not focus on other characters. You should wait, like I said in the previous video, 5 to 7 seconds, but the longer you wait, the more likely Bonnie is to appear on the desk. But I would say as soon as you've dealt with the threats, around 3 seconds, 4 seconds, possibly 5 seconds, possibly it could be 7 seconds, that you can finally come out of the mask, that you can open all the doors that you're dealing with, that you can do the 0 frame camera flip. But try and do it as quick as possible, and try and not wait for it. Try and get him on the table as soon as you can. Start spamming the flips until he's gone, right? So thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.